Hi, this is the Projectile Verification System by Clean. It's the Generation 2 model. The purpose of this unit is to not only control the firing sequence of the projectiles, but also to verify that the projectile has actually exited the tube or the hose that you're cleaning. This will ensure that a projectile is never left in a customer's hose or tube assembly. The Projectile Verification System consists of two main pieces. We have what we call the control station that takes care of the firing sequence of the projectile, and then we have the containment system that the projectile is captured in as you're cleaning your hose and tube. As this is controlling the firing sequence, when the projectile is fired, the air comes on. As the projectile exits the hose or tube, it goes into our containment system. The projectile breaks an electronic beam, which sends a signal back to our control station that the projectile is actually out of the hose or tube. At that point, the air automatically shuts off on this system and the light turns to green, letting the operator know that not only that the firing sequence is done, but also that the projectile is out of the hose or tube. The control station of our PVS unit controls the firing sequence in two ways. When the projectile is fired, our green light goes from green to a blinking yellow to allow the operator to know that the projectile is on its way. The air comes on simultaneously to control that firing sequence. Once the projectile has exited the hose and it goes into our containment system, the light will then go back to green and the air will shut off automatically, letting the operator know that the projectile is no longer in the hose. The control station has some unique features to it. Our air supply hooks into a full flow quick disconnect. We actually filter the incoming air to 5 micron. We then have a regulator and gauge, so you can regulate the air pressure anywhere between 80 psi and 110 psi. We have a simple on-off switch for the unit. So by pressing the button, it will turn it on. Our green lights light. On the unit also, we have a selector switch for the use of either 1 or 2 containment barrels. We have our primary lights for barrel number 1 and our optional lights for barrel number 2. All you have to do is toggle back and forth between barrel 1 and barrel 2 depending on the system that you've bought and actually how you want to clean the hoses or tubes. The Generation 2 control station has hookups for either one primary barrel or a secondary containment barrel. The primary barrel lights are on the left-hand side of the unit. On the right-hand side, you'll find your optional barrel lights. There's a selector switch. If you're only using one barrel, you put the switch to the primary barrel side. If you're going to use 2 barrels in your cleaning, take the toggle, and now we have both lights lit and ready to go. The system also has a projectile counter. It will count the projectiles going into your primary barrel, your secondary barrel. It'll give you a running total of both barrels, and any faults that the system encounters with a misfire, it will also keep track of that. So the counter will do 4 different functions: barrel 1, barrel 2, both barrels as a combination of the total amount of projectiles fired, and also the faults of misfired projectiles. There's also a keyed reset. Anytime that there's a problem and the projectile does not go into the containment barrel or it does not fire from our launcher, the light will go to red. At that point, a supervisor can have the reset key. He would simply come over, give a quarter turn, and reset the system back to green, which means it's ready to fire. This way, you're never taking a chance of a lost projectile or leaving a projectile in a hose or tube. The left-hand side of the unit is for hooking our bench mount launcher, which is a UCBM 1.25 part number. And on the right-hand side of the unit, you can hook our 2-inch hand launcher with electronic trigger. The UCBM bench mount side, its capability is anywhere from 1/8 of an inch through 1 1/4 inch in size range. On the hand launcher side, we go from 1/8 of an inch up through 2 inch. So this machine is capable of cleaning hoses and tubes up through 2-inch ID. The very first step of hooking the system up before it's ever powered on is to hook up the appropriate launchers to the control station. First thing we'll do is hook our twin line air hoses, which are color coded, into these two ports. They are also labeled blue and black. The hose is also color coded blue and black. So you want to hook our twin line air hoses into these two ports first, then hook the air supply coming from the control station to the back of our bench mount. There's also a threaded connection here to hook an electronic foot switch to the unit to control the firing sequence. If you want to use our hand launcher, you go to the right hand side of the unit. There's an air supply that comes out of the control station that will hook directly into the bottom of our 2-inch launcher, and also an electronic connection that will hook into the unit as well to control the firing sequence. With the hand launcher, you can either use the electronic trigger that's built into the launcher, or you can use a foot switch. It's totally up to the operator and whatever makes his job easier. After and only after the launchers are fully hooked into the control station would you then attach the main air supply to our 5-micron filter. After the air supply is attached to the 5-micron filter, you then go to the on-off button. It's white when the unit is off. By depressing it, it turns a bright green, and now our power is fully on. We also have electronic cables for our containment barrel connections. On the back of the control station, it is labeled primary barrel 1 and optional barrel number 2. It's a pinned connection. You just simply push it in, turn the knurled knob clockwise to make the connection, and once you've done that, the barrel is then hooked up electronically to our control station. Now that the bench mount launcher is hooked up to our control station, we're ready to start the firing sequence. You simply drop the projectile into the bench mount, depress the foot switch like this. You can see that the light goes from a steady green to a blinking yellow, and the air is on. The blinking yellow is letting us know that the projectile is on its way. As soon as the projectile breaks the beam, the light goes from the blinking yellow back to a steady green, and our air is shut off automatically. The containment system also has the green, yellow, and red lights on it to make it easier for the operator to just look at the barrel. Again, the light is steady green. When the firing sequence starts, it goes to a blinking yellow. As soon as the beam is broken by the projectile inside of the barrel, the air shuts off and the light goes back to green. We're now going to demonstrate our 2-inch handheld with electronic trigger hooked to our projectile verification system. Simply open the faceplate, drop your projectile in, close the faceplate, depress the electronic trigger. The system will come on much the same way as our bench mount did earlier. If you don't want to use the electronic trigger, we can also use the electronic foot switch to operate the handheld launcher. You've seen the projectile verification system, the containment part that comes with it, our bench mount, and also handheld with the electronic trigger. Please call or email us with any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.